Something I've wanted for the Pocket GT for so long. Well, okay, not so long. The Pocket GT really just came out earlier this year. Um, and heads up, it's on sale a lot. It used to be 50 bucks more than it is nowadays, and Black Friday is coming up soon. So if you're really looking for a great practice tool, I love the Boss Pocket GT, especially how it integrates with YouTube. But what I really wanted was the ability to control that really cool wah sound and start taking advantage of some of the expression options that it seemed like were built into the Pocket GT. And it's like Boss was listening to my thoughts because they have now released the Boss EV-1-WL. My buddy Ryan over at Ryan Fowler's Guitar Experience let me know that this was available. He knows how much I like my Boss Pocket GT. So, and he wanted to find out more about what it did. So he said, hey, you want to check this out? And I said, yes. So I purchased this. This I bought with my own money. Nobody has supplied this to me. This is something I wanted and went out and got. And it has really just been released. So it has a nice steady sweep, it feels like. Feels sturdy. Solid. It's not hollow sounding. And of course in the box you get all the Boss information. Look at that. As a kid, batteries were never included. Batteries are included. On the back, it will take the Boss PSA DC input. It has a power on-off switch. Has quick, easy access battery compartment. Has a MIDI TRS out. Fortunately, I have a couple of those. And it has a USB. Then it has a Bluetooth connect button. Something I was blown away about when I found out I can plug in a 2-switch pedal to this unit and start to control even more options. I am going to record the first little bit of me kind of messing around with it and syncing it to the Pocket GT. There's a couple of things you really need to know before you try to get this connected. This needs to be on the newest firmware, so make sure you check the Boss site. I'll put a link in the description below. Nice solid rubber feet that I imagine you could probably pop off if you wanted to mount it to a board. Not only will this work with the Boss Pocket GT, it's going to work with a few other Boss units. I believe the Core and any of their units that will be equipped with Bluetooth. I am hoping the RC600 might be able to take advantage of this wirelessly. If not, I'm certain you could use the MIDI out and plug it to the MIDI input of almost anything and take advantage of this as also a wired controller. So if you're looking for a good quality expression pedal, this is a multi-use option to consider. If you're using an FS7 or FS6 style, you're going to want to set this setting over here to momentary, and they also recommend the polarity being over to position 1. The manual can walk you through all of that down here. There's also a QR code, which I'm going to scan because I just want to try to learn as much as I can and make sure that I have the connection going on properly between the Boss Pocket GT and the EV-1-WL. One of the first things you're going to want to do in order to get the EV working with the Pocket GT, you will need to head over to the Boss website, go over to the search bar, and search for the Boss Pocket GT. Just under their video display, you'll see the downloads section. Click on that, and that'll bring you to the updates and drivers. You'll want to make sure you install everything appropriate for your system if you're using Windows or Mac. And you're going to want to go through the processes of making sure that your Pocket GT is updated to version 1.20. That's for the subject for another video. If you want to see that, comment down below and I can run through that process. It's pretty simple. They outline it pretty well and it's pretty self-explanatory. Once you've done that, Do the same thing here on the Boss's website and go over to the support section and search PocketGT and find their owner's manual. I'll link to both of these pages in the description of the video below. There's the owner's manual, of course, and the parameters guide, but now there's also these two new tabs that you're going to want to check out. And one is using the Boss Tone Studio for the Pocket GT, the connection guide. And that you have to run through, especially if you've connected your Pocket GT to another device. And there's a walkthrough here on getting this connected and then using the Tone Studio and kind of restarting your MIDI conversation between your devices and the Boss Pocket GT. So if you've used it before, you're going to really want to make sure that you check that out. Part of that is described in another tab here. I'll leave this link below. So it's a very comprehensive guide on what the Pocket GT can do. And down here on page 20, there is an EV-1-WL connection guide. And it explains what Bluetooth MIDI is, or BLE MIDI, and it walks you through the process of how to connect your EV1 with the Pocket GT. You're going to need to delete the registration of the mobile device. It tells you what to do here. An Android device, you'll hit the gear, and you're going to want to delete the previous examples of the Pocket GT audio and MIDI. And in an iOS phone, what I had to do was go and tap I for each one of those devices and forget this device. That will restart the conversation once you get connected. You will need to have a mobile device or your laptop or something in order to connect the Pocket GT and the EV-1-WL, the expression pedal, I'll probably just call it that. In order to connect the expression pedal and the Pocket GT together, you will need to get Tone Studio running on whatever device you're going to be using. So I need to go in and hit the I, and if this was an Android device, you'd hit your gear button. And I'm going to go ahead and hit forget this device on Boss Pocket GT audio, and then I'll do the same thing to Boss Pocket GT MIDI. Forget this device. We're going to turn on my Boss Pocket GT. It's going to boot up. The blue light is blinking slowly, and now it's steady. So now I am going to long press, as the manual says, the Bluetooth button here in the middle. And then I'll come over. This blue light now next to my number 9 is going to be blinking rapidly. I'll come over and turn on the switch for the EV. Now you can see it's blinking white on the EV. I want to bring it close to the Pocket GT while the Pocket GT is still blinking. And while this is still blinking, and then I'm going to press this Bluetooth button. It starts blinking rapidly. And it's looking for the Pocket GT, and the Pocket GT is looking for it. And now you can see the white light has stopped blinking. And eventually the blue light on the Pocket GT will stop blinking. You can see it's still pulsing. But that shows that I have now made a connection here between my EV wireless, the Expression wireless, and the Pocket GT. Now the Bluetooth indicator here, it will stop blinking. And then it will, eventually stop blinking. I know from doing this before that if you see it blinking still, don't be alarmed. It will stop. And it, probably, I believe that once I connected Tone Studio, that just made it stop. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and move over to my computer and plug in a USB cable here. And I'm going to launch Tone Studio. It's going to ask you to connect your Pocket GT. Hit OK. And now the blinking light on my Pocket GT has stopped blinking, and I have my patch pulled up. It automatically defaults to the patch that you had last running on in here. And so you can see as I turn this knob, it will change to the patches. You get a lot more control by using the Tone Studio for the Pocket GT app. And you get some choices on how you're going to run the expression pedal and how you turn it on and off and what it'll do when you do that. And then also for your external switch, if you're going to run an external switch to control some parameters, there's lots of different parameters that you can select. And this guide will kind of tell you what's available. Go up here to the menu tab, click on menu, and you get your tuner, your favorite memory, all the way of doing all the normal things that you've always had. But the new update has applied this wireless pedal setting option. And we have several tabs that we can now pull down and assign how the Pocket GT and the EV will then react. This has an on-off switch here. It's easier to do with your feet, but I think I can activate it. So now I've pushed toe down on this, and a white light has shown up here. Let's see, a white light next to the green light, and I'll turn it off again. So now it's just the green light. So the pedal has two modes that it can run in, and you can choose to either have it be off or on as the pedal effect option in your signal chain. You can also choose to have it be off or on as your foot volume. So this would be one way or the other. And then the way that I currently have it selected is that when the white light is off, it's foot volume. When I toe down and the white light turns on, it is really tough to do with your hands, just so you know. It's not an easy thing to put on a desktop and use. You need your body weight, which it reacts quickly and easily when you're using your foot. You got to also remember that you're going to end up wanting to hit this more, not at the very end of it, but it seems to be more reactive if your weight is in this area of the pedal. That's what I've noticed. It's a little bit more responsive, and that's why I kind of have to grab it with both hands and push down in that spot. So you can see now when I have it in green, the way that I'm going to run it is when I have it in green, it's going to act as a foot volume. And I can set within each patch the minimum and maximum for that foot volume. And I'll show you that real quick. And you turn it on, and then it will become whatever I have the pedal effects assigned to for that chain. So I'll turn it off, and we'll run through that real quick. You can also see that if you add a control switch, here I have a BOSS FS7. You want to set that to momentary. On the side here, it has its different options. You're going to want to set it to momentary and polarity 1 in order for this to work as the standard way. I mean, if you're using it momentary, it's going to just be how it is. But this will help it react properly to the default within the patch that you have assigned to the on-off state of that button. If you have it in polarity 1, it will react properly. Otherwise, you'll have to do a double tap in order to get it reset. But here on these switches, you can see you have a lot of options that now have been added. So we can make this go memory up, and then you would end up making the other one memory down. You can turn off effects 1. There's plenty of options. Effects 2. I currently have it set up so that I'm turning off my overdrive or distortion pedal within that patch, whichever patch I have selected. And then down here in my second switch, you get the same options. You can do beats per minute, delay, time tap. If you're running YouTube, you could do fast forwards and pauses, and there's a way to do double taps and hit both of the buttons to have different options even within that context. So if you were to hit both of them at the same time, it would react differently when you're using the menu, the YouTube menu. Right now, I'm just trying to set up a delay on or off, and then an overdrive on or off sound, and then I'll set a minimum and maximum kind of foot volume, and then make it whatever the pedal effects is. In this particular patch that I have picked out, it's going to be a wah. And I'll show you how to go between a wah and even their whammy. I have the fat wah chosen, but you can come down here to pedal bend. And one thing I will say about this, I wish that instead of this being effect level, I wish that this was a wet dry, so that when it was all the way 100%, you were blending in none of the dry signal, and that if you wanted half and half, you would go there. And then if you wanted really very little of the effect signal, but all of your dry, I would love to see that in an update. That would make this the ultimate whammy emulator, because right now it really is just taking your whole signal and sending it up or down, and then you kind of have a level for that. So it'd be great to see that as an option, but still, if you could dive into a lot of deeper options with the wireless pedal if you would hook it up to something like the GT Core, and kind of change your presets. This has full MIDI capabilities. You could hook this up to your laptop. I actually had this running as a MIDI pedal in my laptop already. The other thing I would love would be if we just had a little bit more options, maybe a learn. Maybe we could have this not just turn on or off specified effects banks, but maybe even have a learn button where we could pull into your amplifier. If your amp setting had a bright switch or a solo switch or something like that, you could tell it to learn that feature. That would be great in an update, but really what they've given us here to be able to control the Pocket GT and several other devices wirelessly right off the bat, there's some pretty great options. I'm going to go ahead and plug this all in. Basically, I have a TRS cable, and when you plug that into the side here, it will then allow the switch to start to run to some parameters. If I go on my pedal effect here, I'm not currently on it, so I'm not controlling those parameters. But if I click over to the foot volume, you can see now as I do this, I'm moving my foot volume up and down. And if you want to not be completely quiet and you want to just bring it down a little bit, you can bring that volume minimum up some. Like let's say you don't want to drive your drive pedal all the way, or you don't want to drive your amp all the way. Like if I were to put this in front of my overdrive, then it would saturate the pedal and then back off the pedal as I brought that down. And the minimum, even though the level is saying 0, the minimum will then be determined by this. Same with this, as if I bring it up and I make that relative relationship between the sweep just be this minimum and that maximum, then you'll get different results. We can click over to the foot pedal section here, and if I were to turn it on here, once you turn it over into this mode that I now have, you can see I'm moving my pedal position. So I'm sweeping through a full octave here, and you can change it. You can have it sweep up, any of these ranges up 2 octaves or down 2 octaves for complete mayhem. And let's see, let's just set it at 12 for a full octave. And so now I'm sweeping through that full pedal position. I'd really love to, in terms of learn options, it'd be great to be able to come over to the delay and let's say hit the effect level and have it adjust that. Hit the learn and have it, instead of being the wah on a patch, have it be that. That would be really, really cool. But, again, that's something that you're going to find as a feature if you go into something like the BOSS GT 1000 Core or whatever some of the other devices that this might work with. I don't know about the Waza headphones if that's an option. This is really, for me, this is going to be allowing me to pull up my favorite patch and have a great amp sound and then drive it more by turning on and off this distortion pedal and then turning on and off a delay. So you can see I'm currently bringing on my delay and adding a distortion. So you can come through to your distortion setting. And right now I just have a tube screamer, but you can see you can turn on all these different things. If you want to really get that nice John Mayer tone, you pull up a metal zone, right? For the FS7, you need to plug it into the B section. That's how you see both of the switches through one TRS jack. Just in case you didn't know. So I hope this quick look at connecting the EV-1-WL to the Pocket GT helped you decide if this is something that you want to look into. For me, it takes what is becoming an essential practice tool that I have and just expanding on it in a great way that guitarists can take advantage of by putting control over a patch or the whole unit really at your feet. I can imagine, I see a project coming on, getting this mounted on a strap, running this wirelessly over to an interface or a mixer, and then just having this at my feet. I mean, that would be great because as you can hear, you can get a number of great sounds even within just one patch that are all kind of usable. Dry, wet, you have a lot of options for how you want to run this if you add an external dual switch. And that's a game changer, I think. This is really cool. This is a nice pairing. Good job, boss. I see room for expansion. I see room for improvement, but I also see where that option is available in some of their other items. As far as the Pocket GT goes, I think they've done a really good job of giving you a lot of useful options right out of the gate with this thing and with both of these. I'm really interested to see how this works with, you know, some of my recording interfaces and just popping something at my feet and having a little control over maybe some of my synth sounds. I believe that that is completely possible. Like I said at the beginning of the video, this I, you know, purchased on my own. Nobody's paid me to say anything about it. These are my impressions and they are good. They are good. You can see now that I've got the two units paired, I can quickly and easily turn on the GT and then turn on the EV. It will blink, and in a moment, it will stop blinking, and now they're paired. And Tone Studio will respond accordingly, and all of the settings that you have assigned to your Pocket GT just work right. Using it with something like the Pocket GT or any other device, it will remember the last device it was synced to. So I can use this with this. If I got a core at some point, I could use it with that and then swap back and forth really easily by resyncing. And now that they've been synced together, I should be able to do that pretty quickly. So thanks for watching if you've watched this far. And thanks, Ryan, for putting one of these aside for me. I really appreciate it. Boss, really, really cool. Thank you. And thank you for being here.